the host of Hugh Hewitt Show. Hugh Hewitt joins us now. We've seen so much in your career. This has got to be one of the most unique pairings ever.
It is, Brian. I got to compliment you and your producers on that opening montage. When you go back and do it again, I just add Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis from Die Hard with a Vengeance.
True.
I don't like you because you're going to get me killed. But buddy movies, it's the perfect way to open this up. If we did history, though, we'd show Harry Hopkins being FDR's emissary to Churchill in 1940 to figure out whether or not Britain can survive. We would use Ben Bradley and John Kennedy. These are predicates for a president using an SGE. We call them special government employees now, but it's just somebody that they like and get along with. But the president remains the president. Donald Trump is in charge. Those Democrats melting down, they really have lost it. And that's another good montage. So if I hear that song one more time, my head's going to split open, because that is the worst song I've ever heard sung. I think it's a great partnership. It's working very well, as Musk said in the Oval. They're going to make some mistakes. They're going fast. They're going to break some things. They're going to have to glue them back together. I'm all for it, Brian. All for it, because what they found already, the USAID stuff, and they're just getting started. Wait till they get to the Department of Education. Wait till they get to transportation, aside from the FCC and, the FAA. When they get to the Department of Defense, I hope they go very carefully, but go very deep.
Absolutely. And do you worry that courts are going to stop it? I know they've already slowed it down, and we'll talk about that a little bit later with Ted Cruz. But do you worry they're going to stop it?
Well, I'm not worried. I think the Constitution is very strong. The nonsense about a constitutional crisis is just that, nonsense by people who don't know anything about the law. Some district courts have impeded some actions. They will all be reviewed by appellate courts. They may get up to the SCOTUS in a hurry. It depends on it. There's one overreach by a Trump appointee, by the way, where he told the president he could not recall USAID employees abroad. That just gets right into the heart of the president's foreign affairs commander-in-chief power, and I think that will be reversed in a hurry. If they've made mistakes about the dismissal of federal employees, I used to be the general counsel and deputy director of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, long ago and far away. It's hard to fire a federal employee after the 1978 Civil Service Reform Act. But if they do it wrong, those employees will get reinstated, or they'll get a buyout, whatever. It's not the end of the world. What's the end of the world is a $2 trillion deficit every year and $36 trillion in debt. We have to do this while also defending the country and making sure that the social safety net stays in place.
Yeah, right. And if we got the smartest guy doing it for free with his team that has 7 successful companies and made him the richest man in the world, please show me the downside. My opinion, the sleeping giant of this administration potentially could be RFK Jr. He has brought Democrats and Republicans together, especially moms, because we're going to look, it's what's in our food. Look what's in our vaccines, not banning vaccines. Do you agree with me on that when his nomination was actually confirmed this week, that he is going to be the beginning of something that could really produce something for every family?
I'm a little bit different, Brian. I will wait and see. I didn't come out against him because I don't know him, and I know that the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, is a huge part of the Trump coalition. Donald Trump is a very savvy operator when it comes to bringing together a group of people to work, as developers often do, on a multi-phase project with all sorts of different multi-uses in it, from golf courses to high-rises to residential and to commercial. So he's bringing together a team, and Robert Kennedy Jr. represents a lot to the MAHA movement. I hope he does not go too far, because he does have some rather eccentric views on some issues. So I'm going to wait and see. But HHS is very big. It's got lots of guardrails in it. There are lots of professionals that he's going to bring along with him. So I'm willing to see. I didn't oppose it because I think Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy represent part of the Trump coalition. And unlike Obama and unlike Biden, those two presidents went to the left when they were elected. Donald Trump's running to the center because he wants his coalition to endure. That's work of genius.
So this past week, Linda McMahon went up and had her day on trial to see if she's going to get that nomination. I'm sure she's certainly going to, but she made it clear. I would like to wind down the Department of Education. I would like to disperse it again. But yet it's counterintuitive in a way, because if you want control and want to upgrade it, why have less power inside of it?
It's the most ideologically driven bureaucracy, Brian. I had Bill Bennett on, former Secretary of Education, this week. Bill informed me there's a $1.7 trillion student loan portfolio listed as an asset on the books of the Department of Education. That ought to be privatized, sold off as an asset, allow the Republicans to do more tax cuts. As for their Office of Civil Rights, it's upside down completely. They're not protecting civil rights, they're protecting woke. There's a lot of ideological extremism at the Department of Education. Should be just block granted out to the states, get rid of it all, and I hope Linda McMahon is successful. They can move the OCR over to the DOJ's Division of Civil Rights and get the same thing done with better people.
So, you know, it's interesting as we look at the grades, we're going to be able to find out how President Trump is doing by looking at the numbers. They don't lie. In reading for fourth graders, they're down in reading, down in math. For eighth graders, too, down 8. For reading, down 8 in math. And in reading, down 5. So this is terrible, and we just spend more and more money if you look at how much money we're investing. So it's not a lack of focus, it's a lack of planning and maybe learning the wrong thing. What I'm also encouraged about is the elimination of CRT, the 1619 project. How convincing can they be in Washington to convince all 50 states that they got to start loving the country again with its curriculum?
Well, Congress can help. They could certainly attach to the budget reconciliation process a requirement that any state that receives federal money provide an education choice alternative. But I'm glad you brought up the nation's report card, Brian. I didn't know you were going to do that. That's a 5-alarm fire in parents' ears. If your kid can't read by the 4th grade, they're not going to learn. They're going to be functionally illiterate and unable to find satisfactory work that will do them well for the long term. We ought to absolutely treat it as such, and as Bennett said to me, we ought to stop everything else and focus exclusively on reading by score and rough age cohorts until individuals can read. Because the bottom 10%, in some cases the bottom quarter of 8th graders in many places, they're illiterate.
Hugh Hewitt, always great to talk to you. Thanks so much. It's going to be an interesting 4 years, judging by the first 3 weeks. Appreciate it. All right, now this.
Thank you, Brian.